Nvidia has been kind of moving the needle for the entire stock market.
I'm seeing a lot of people super excited right now about AMD, Micron, and Nvidia. When things are at all-time highs, that's when the most talk is about them. So that's when the most retail buyers are buying.
So, Sam, you want to take us off? Let's talk about what's going on with Nvidia. So, I know their earnings are on Wednesday. It's going to be impactful for everything, right? AMD, Micron, a lot of the AI plays. So, what's happening there?
Yeah, so Nvidia has earnings, like you said. They're expected to have the same earnings per share that they had last quarter, within a cent. So kind of interesting there. But their revenue is expected to go up about $10 billion from last quarter. So still growth on the top line, but from what I can see, at least from Google, it seems like it's flattening right like this quarter on EPS. This really drives the market, though. Like you said, like this is kind of the leading indicator as to whether this AI trade is going to continue. The trickle down of all the other like 10, 20, $50 billion companies that are in the AI stack, obviously, are going to be dependent on Nvidia and how much the hyperscalers are spending. I feel like the major tech companies have laid out that they're still going to be spending this year and next year, upping how much they're going to spend. But sometimes Nvidia gives guidance a little bit further out and gives the market a bit of a calming word. And last week was a little bit dramatic too for Nvidia, because we heard that China might start buying Nvidia chips. Then we heard that they haven't done that. So it kind of whipsawed back and forth. Sitting at 225, I think this is the highest that's ever been, with the exception of 1 or 2 days last week, a $5.5 trillion company. And I still don't think, on the forward looking, it's very expensive at a 25 forward priced earnings when it's growing revenue 73%. But yeah, this is such an interesting time. Every time we see like Nvidia or Micron report earnings, it's interesting because everyone thinks that their revenue is going to trail off soon. So every single quarter is like one of 6 closer to 2028, where people think that everything's going to slow down. So yeah, it's just really important how they come in, and do they beat analyst expectations or kind of leave people wanting more?
Yeah. And I wonder what sort of impact it'll have when the earnings comes out, right? Is it going to be more focused on the actual earnings, or is it going to be focused more on the guidance? Because, for example, SoFi, not too long ago, SoFi released their earnings, beat all expectations for the most part, but their guidance was what was a little bit like, we think this year is going to be very normal. Like, they were basically saying it's not going to be a crazy year, it'll be a normal year. And SoFi immediately fell after that news. And so I almost wonder if Nvidia comes out, when these earnings comes out, which one is more important to pay attention to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like both for Nvidia, because it's the darling of the stock market. Like SoFi has already come down 50%. So I think they have even a little bit more room for error than Nvidia. Nvidia has to constantly beat expectations and give good guidance and say, don't worry.
I'm seeing a lot of people super excited right now about AMD, Micron, and Nvidia, and a couple more here and there, right? So from my view, I'm not invested directly like into single stocks into any of those, but I do have quite a lot of exposure through the NASDAQ, right? For the people who are probably, I would only assume this, but because of the way the chart's moving, because of the way, YouTube works and mainstream media works, when things are at all-time highs, that's when the most talk is about them. So that's when the most retail buyers are buying. Whether or not institutions are buying at these levels, harder to, guarantee or speculate about. But right now, I would assume there's a lot of retail buying happening at these all-time high levels. Is that something that you guys would consider? I know both of you, I think, are exposed to Nvidia, AMD anyway, at least from the ETFs you hold. But would you consider buying at these levels, or is there anything in particular you would wait for before you started scaling in?
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing to buy a little bit. You know what I mean? I would be lying if I said that I would put all of my cash into these 3 as much as humanly possible, right? Because you have to understand that when a chart looks like this, I mean, let me pull this up real quick. Like, when a chart looks like this for Micron, you have to understand that this is one of those moments where going all in would be a wild thing to do. You know what I mean?
For the people that are listening, it's gone straight up since April, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just basically just straight vertical. And yeah, I forgot some people will just be listening to this. From March 31st to now, we're looking at Micron that rallied 165% over the course of 31 bars, which is 44 days, currently up still around 135% or so roughly. And when you have a vertical, kind of ascent like this, it doesn't mean that the price is going to crash for certain. It's not what that means at all. And there are some moments where that actually doesn't happen like that. For example, if you just kind of peel things back a little bit and you look what happened back, February or March, we saw Micron go vertical as well before stalling out a little bit. Yeah, it pulled back a bit, but it did actually maintain well and continue that pump. But at the end of the day, you have to recognize that in a moment like this, when you have something like Micron pumping, when you have Nvidia at all-time highs, when you have AMD rallying, you're not in the best buying place possible. That's all you have to understand. It doesn't mean you have to sell everything. It doesn't mean that you have to just get out or that you can't buy. It's just not the most opportune time to be purchasing. And so when we have these sorts of moments, I'm still willing to buy because you have something like Micron that has a ridiculous PE. When you look at something like Nvidia, I still think it's going to be impactful. Its revenue is still climbing. I think even if its EPS does flatten out, it will still eventually climb as well. I'm not on the whole boat of that. This whole bubble is going to pop at some point soon. And the same thing goes for AMD. So I'm still willing to purchase in these moments, but I'm not buying in the biggest amounts humanly possible right now because we have gone vertical just last week, right? What I personally prefer to do is maybe I'll start a little bit of a position today. Let's say I've never bought Nvidia, I've never bought AMD, I've never bought Micron, but my neighbor's talking about it, all my friends are talking about it. I want to buy it. I have $1,000. Instead of going in and just buying $1,000 of all of them or one of them or whatever, what I may do is assign $50 per purchase per stock, right? So that's $150. I go in and I buy it. And then I give it a day or two, see how it responds. Does it rally? Does it stabilize? Does it fall? And then go from there, because these are weird moments in the market when you're vertical like this, because you just don't know what can happen. And emotions are highest after moves like this one.